everyone. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to week 7 of our summer interview bootcamp. Time goes by fast. I can't believe it's week 7 already. And I definitely hope that you have been working on your interview, getting ready for the interview season. So without further ado, we are going into the core content this week. This week, we're going to talk about work and learning style. So some sample questions include, how do you describe your work style? How do you handle stress? What gives you job satisfaction? How do you think on your feet? And if you don't understand, what's your strategy? So why do people ask you about your work style? It's important because employers want to know what kind of a team player you are. Right. So if you're a team player in the modern workplace setting, you not only need to learn things quickly, but also collaborate with a team. Now, sometimes the team is cross-functional. Sometimes the team is spread in several different regions. So knowing how you work, how you learn will play a key role in terms of how you fit into that team and how much you can contribute to the team goal. So there are different ways of asking this question. For example, it can be asked this way: when you have too many things, how do you prioritize your work? Right? When you're under stress, how do you deal with pressure? Do you prefer to work alone or with a team? And are you the kind of person that need to figure it out on your own or go to others for help? Tell me about a time when you had to work with a large amount of data. How did you go about, and what gives you the most job satisfaction, right? So the question, are you the kind that need to figure it out on your own or go to others for help? And this is a question I've asked people I interviewed many times. So the reason being, as someone junior, it's very common that there are things that you don't understand and you don't know how to do. Yet, working in a team, oftentimes there's individual deadlines and team deadlines. So we obviously don't want you to get stuck and spend all day working on something and not getting any results, and sort of not only delay your own process, but also delay the entire team's progress. So we want you, and we also don't want someone that just go to your supervisor, go to your manager the very minute that you encounter a problem, right? So we want a balance of someone who is going to spend some time trying to figure the answer out, but at some point, draw the line and say, look, I spent a couple of hours and I still can't figure this out. I need to go to someone to get help so that I can move on to the next phase and get the project done. So some of the examples of work style that you can use to describe yourself are, these are some of the examples, right? You're flexible, you're adaptable, you can multitask, you are very organized, you're a logical thinker, for example. Now, you can be a collaborator and a leader, right? And you can be both, actually. You are supportive, you're dependable, and you're resourceful, meaning that you're creative, that you can come up with solutions and utilize different resources available to you. Now, what you should not do when asked about your work style, these are some of the things you should definitely avoid, right? Number one, you should not say that you don't like to work with a team. I would dare to say vast majority of the jobs that you'll be interviewing for will require a fair bit of teamwork. And if you work at some of these technology companies or financial services companies, pharmaceutical companies, it's almost going to be certain that you will work with a team, whether to on certain products or to serve certain customers. No one person can do everything. So definitely do not say you don't like to work in a team. Uh, Similarly, don't say I can get the work done all by myself. Not a good idea, arrogant, and you're not, you don't want to gain new skills because you already have advanced skills. That's a little scary because the workplace is constantly changing. So what you have advanced today might not be sufficient tomorrow. So always emphasize on the desire to learn more. Um, there's another thing that people often get tripped up on is you don't like changes or uncertainty. Now, to be honest, no one like a lot of changes and no one like uncertainty. But to be honest, uncertainty is the only thing that's certain in the workplace these days. You will be given projects with wishy-washy kind of requirement, with moving deadlines, and these are all part of the uncertainties that we experience. So be sure to talk about your ability to handle these situations, right? If you cannot change, you don't like uncertainty, it shows that you're not adaptable. So especially in a team environment, right? When everyone kind of need to adapt to the changing situation and come up with solution that can help move the team project along. If you're someone that's rigid, can adapt to changes, that's not going to be a good fit. Don't say that pressure is not your friend. Nobody likes pressure, but we need to demonstrate that we have the ability to handle pressure and stress. Again, similar, you're stubborn, you don't want to get help from others or get help from anyone else. To me, that's important, right? I just talk about the balance between trying to figure it out by yourself, yet ask for help when you pass certain threshold, right? So if you don't want to get help, and I work with people like that, right? So you might not be able to deliver the best product or solution. So you have to be amenable, want to work with people, willing to accept feedback, willing to improve yourself, and make sure what you're doing is really contributing to the team objectives. So let's take a look at an example. Again, all the examples we're looking at here are real examples from our students. Some of the good examples we go over weren't perfect on day one, but we work on them multiple times, and now we think those are truly the story that is expressing our students' viewpoint, right? So let's take a look at this one. How do you describe your work style? My time management skills and efficiency always help me stay on top of my projects. I can successfully shuffle between multiple projects at once while maintaining a fast pace with few errors. While most of my work is done independently, I am very open to collaborate with others as it gives me the chance to share my ideas with others and learn from my team members. Working in a team also enables me to give feedback to others to improve while also getting feedback on my work. For instance, during one of the most recent projects, my team each had our own assigned roles. However, one of my teammates was behind schedule due to a personal issue. While I made sure to finish my own task, I also stayed late every day that week to help him with the project, and we were able to deliver the project on time. So the team's independent and collaborative relationship really helped. The independent and collaborative relationship really helped the team as a whole, and was the best environment for my own work style. So I think this is a good example in that the person highlighted both his independence and collaborative work style. And for his own independence, right, he said he can successfully shuffle between multiple projects, can manage his priority list very clearly, and at the same time making very little mistakes, right? So that's a very good quality for an independent contributor. Now, he also talked about he can collaborate with others. The example given was precisely that. When someone else on the team had an issue, he was able to jump in and help out, right? So I think that's a very good example that achieves balance of independence and collaborative work style. So let's take a look at another one. How would you describe your work style? Same question, but not a great example. Okay. I am an individual who's very independent. Nothing wrong with that. I like to work individually as I feel more concentrated. Working independently helped me keep up with my pace and deliver the work on time. Whenever, I work in a group with others, I feel distracted. Therefore, I prefer to work by myself since it helps me finish on time. Okay. So this is exactly the don'ts that we talked about earlier, right? It come across as self-centered, a bit selfish, right? You can't work with others because they distract you. And it shows that sense of I'm not willing to help others because that would distract me, or I don't want to receive feedback from others, right? None of these are good things to say to your employer. All right, so moving on, next. How do you handle stress? Okay. From my previous experiences, I found out that I actually work better under stress. And I have found that I enjoy working in a challenging environment. For me, the appropriate way to deal with the stress is to make sure that I have a clear goal and action plan. I need some level of stress to stay motivated and productive. For instance, my last internship at Morgan Stanley, I was assigned to both individual project as well as a group project. In addition, I had another project to do for one of my classes. All the projects were very important and due around the same time of the week. Since my school project was going to take less time to complete, I decided to spend 1 hour per day working on it, and the rest of time I dedicated to my other two projects. At the end of the week, I was very happy that I was able to deliver all the projects on time, and it was a success. So what I like about it is the student talk about stress and pressure is not her enemy. It is rather something that keep her motivated and productive. And I think I function the same way, right? If I don't have any pressure, I don't have any deadlines, I generally find myself unable to accomplish anything, right? And I'm sure some of you were like that too. I remember a friend of mine told me when he was between jobs. So I think he left one job and it was during a couple months period, was looking for another. He said it was just so hard to even get up in the morning. And if all day he was able to say, go to the post office and do one thing, that was like a big deal. And I think I probably would echo, if I don't have pressure, I don't have a packed schedule, I wouldn't be productive. So I think employers will appreciate if you have a positive sense of sort of response to pressure. Now, what I also like about this example is that very clearly our student said, what I need is a clear goal and action plan, right? So this shows the person is result oriented. It shows that this person can prioritize and is methodical and organized, right? So all these are good qualities to deal with stress, right? So if you want to make sure that you talk about how you handle stress, right, these are some of the good keywords to hit. All right, another example, right, on work style. What gives you the most job satisfaction? Some people might say, why is that a way to talk about your work style? Work style, of course, you can talk about, independence, collaboration, but I also think satisfaction is another way to describe your work style, right? After all, we work not just because we want to get a paycheck, right? So for that, job satisfaction, definitely do not mention the monetary part, right? So job satisfaction usually could come from a couple of areas. For example, if you are, let's say, solving problems, giving you job satisfaction, making other people's life easier, right? Or contributing to the team project and, seeing results. I think those are probably we're being creative, right? That could be another thing that gives me satisfaction. So let's look at this example. My job satisfaction depends on my work result. I gain satisfaction when I see that my work is creating a positive impact in my community, helping my company to grow, and making others' jobs easier. For example, last tax season, I volunteered to be part of a nonprofit organization to prepare free tax returns for people from low-income households. After filing every free tax return, the client was very appreciative and told me how important it is for them to get the money that they were going to get as refund. This gave me satisfaction and made me feel good to see how my volunteering work was affecting others' lives in a positive way. Okay, so again, I think this is simple, straightforward, but very sweet and to the point, right? So seeing my work, adding value, making a difference, making other people getting their money back, right? And people are happy about it, and that's satisfaction. So that shows your willingness to help others, right? Your willingness to add value to the community, to the company, shows that teamwork spirit. I think those would be things that are going to be very well received by the employer. Okay, so moving on to another subsegment of the work and learning style is about learning style. Why do people ask about learning style? Clearly, when you, as a junior person or as a student going into starting your first job, you're not going to know everything about the job, right? So some of you are busy preparing your interview, trying to cover every technical question. And I can just tell you, it's not going to happen. You're not going to know everything when you go into your work. So people will want to know how you learn. Do you learn by, asking other people, reading, hands-on, right? But in general, employers these days want quick learners. And that's very true. We talked about earlier, technology is changing very fast. Business processes oftentimes will change very fast, right? Today, you might be using this application, and tomorrow, there might be a new system introduced to your work, right? Today, your team might be collaborating with a client or a vendor in India. Tomorrow, that vendor might come from an Eastern European country, for example, right? You never know how things will change, and changes happen a lot quicker in workplace now. So employers want to know what is your learning style and how you will be able to get up to speed quickly and be able to, again, add value to the project team. So there are also different ways to ask about your learning style. For example, what is a new skill that you're planning to acquire, and how do you intend to achieve it? Right. So what do you want to learn and how you want to learn it, right? It's a different way to ask about learning style. How do you think on your feet? And if you don't understand the question, what is the strategy, right? We're going to have an example on that. And I think just the word think on your feet sometimes throw people off, right? Think on your feet just basically means, have to think about it quickly and come up with an answer right away, right? What is your preferred learning style? Activities versus theory, right? What are your work-related activity preference? Your analytical, administrative, creative, etc. So how to answer this question, right? You should, a couple of things to, first of all, to highlight, right? There are different ways to learn things, right? We listed 3 of them, right? It can be visual, meaning I like to observe and see how other people do it, right? Auditory, meaning listening and speaking. So I'm probably a little bit of that, right? Because I like to ask people, right? Share their experience or talk about the process and just kind of learn from other people's experience. That's very important. And oftentimes, this is the reason why sometimes when you are working on a project with senior people, you guys have a meeting first, right? Talk through the concept, what's expected, and how, what is the action plan to tackle the problem. So kinesthetic, that's a fancy word for hands-on, right? Like we said earlier, some people prefer to learn and practice and figure it out on their own, right? There's a hands-on piece. So it's very possible that it involves your learning style involves a little bit of all three with a preference to something, right? But I think it's always good to think about you're not just one style, right? You have to be really well versed in all different learning styles. So take a look at this one. How do you think on your feet? If you don't understand the question, what is the strategy? The answer here, I take several steps to come up with a solution to a question. First, I always try to look at the big picture so that I can understand the context. Secondly, I reflect upon my past knowledge and experience. However, if I still do not have an answer, I ask the person who's asking the question to repeat the question or paraphrase it in a different way. During one of my recent projects at Deloitte, I was given a task where I had to audit an IT access log. There were some questions that I did not know how to answer. So I reflected on my knowledge of auditing, but I still could not come up with a solution because this is not a financial audit as I learned in school. Therefore, instead of keeping my head in the sand and produce unrelated results, I reached out to my manager and asked for clarification. My manager was glad to help, and the question became much easier for me to solve. Right. So I think in here, the person listed the key steps he would go about solving this problem, right? Look at the big picture, understand the context, right? Sometimes the question is not as straightforward, right? So always understand why is this question being asked. And then reflect on your past experience. If you don't have the knowledge, after you tried, ask for clarification. So I think the example was also very relevant, right? This person clearly learned the concept of audit in school. But in school, what he learned was financial audit. And here he needed to audit an IT access log. So a log versus financial statement, very different, right? So when he didn't know how to do it exactly, he went to ask for help, hence problem solved, right? Contrary to that, there's a not so great example. At my recent internship at AT&T, I was given a task where I was responsible to collect data from our clients for research. Since I collected data before, I did my best to come up with data that was possible for me to find. To show my initiative, I collected more data than I was asked to do. However, when I had to submit the task, my manager told me that I collected the wrong data and would have to redo the whole data collection process. Eventually, I was able to fulfill my task the second time around. Okay, so this is almost like don't example is that you didn't understand what was being asked, or you had some vague sense of what's being asked, right? Instead of making sure you're on the same page with the person asking you to do something, this person just went ahead and did it, and turned out it was a total waste of time, right? And in real world, one of the things we definitely want to avoid is you wasting time, right? Because every minute you spend at work, you're getting paid. So if you're not being productive, that's not the kind of situation that employers want to deal with. So approaches to solving a complex problem, break down problems into different pieces, look at different point of view, reflect on past knowledge and experience, seek help from others, list all the possible solutions, evaluate the solutions, finalize the options, right? These are all great steps, right? And you can almost use these or some of these points listed to come up with your strategy for talking about problem solving or work or learning style. So now these are questions that are definitely being asked. For example, I told you earlier, right? I asked people, do you prefer to work on your own versus go to others for help? So even though I'd say probably the chances of that happening is not top, right? As they give me an example of project work or the challenge you encountered, these are definitely questions that are being asked. So have an answer, either work or learning style, at least have one example, right? So I'm pretty sure these days in the automated interview question list, these questions are there that you might be asked one day. Okay, so next week we're gonna enter a very important topic, examples of cultural fit, i.e., why do you want to work for our company? Or why do you want a position as a data scientist, for example? Or why do you want to work in New York, for example, versus San Francisco? So this is a cultural fit question, very, very important. A lot of students don't know how to talk about cultural fit, right? So we're going to give you examples of all that as well. So in the meantime, please make sure you're practicing, you're putting your examples together, and we welcome you book additional practice sessions and then work on all your answers with us. So thank you for your time. Hopefully you have a great weekend. I will see you next week. Thanks.